Hello everybody, welcome aboard. It's good to see you. Flight SimCon. Came, we saw, we went, we had a great time. If you guys didn't get a chance to go, you really did miss out, honestly. It was just an awesome show. And I was blown away by everybody that was able to meet, everybody that was able to attend, all the vendors, all the organizers. Like it was such a fun show. So I wanted to take an opportunity here to put together a little bit of a retrospective on the weekend, and just give everybody kind of some of my thoughts on some of the stuff that I saw, and talk about some of the stuff that I saw too for those that weren't able to make it, and just maybe try to get some more folks to maybe make their way up here to the old New England area next year whenever they decide to organize this thing. So we're gonna do a little VFR flight. We're starting here at Beverly Airport. It's my home airport. It's about a couple miles away from where I live. In fact, the one and only time that I've flown a real airplane has been this airport, not this runway though. Holding short runway 27 here, we'll be flying the V-Flight Air Piper Cherokee 140. And we're going to go check out some Mr. X scenery. Hotly anticipated. So hit the hold short line, and we'll get going here in just a few minutes. I'll see you guys once we're on the runway. And we are clear to the left. Clear to the right. Let's go ahead and get our mixture to full. Pitot heat can come on. Strobe lights, nav lights. Let's get out of here. Slowly advance the powers to full. Try to find that center line there. And we got instruments in the green. We got airspeed alive. Pull that sucker up there. Positive rate, looks like she's climbing. No gear to put up here. So I got a pretty good list of things that I want to talk about here, and I've actually been thinking about this video most of the day. I'm kind of excited to do this. So first of all, I just want to talk about some of the folks that we saw. There were quite a lot of Twitchers and YouTubers that made it out, and for most of us, this was actually the first time that we had met. So I'd be remiss if I didn't also mention Mr. Jack. Jack told me how to say his name while we were at the event, and I totally forgot. So Jack, Mr. Flying Jackal, I still think it's Skazikas. I know that's totally wrong. So Jack was there. Jack's a good dude. I think Jack was going to remove his lung from his body a couple of times. Jack, I hope you're feeling better, man. You may want to go see a doctor about that, though. Also showing up today, or also showing up, I should say, for the show is Mr. Josh J. Gibbs, the man himself. Josh was shorter than I was expecting him to be, but you know, every bit as Josh-like as one would hope. Joining us also was Mr. John Fly. Came out here from Salt Lake City. Probably one of the nicest guys I've ever met. It was very, very big pleasure to meet John, and I saw a picture of John that was taken sometime after Flight SimCon. That maybe on John's channel we can bother him and see how things sort of went for him after the fact. Also joining us was Aerosim Gaming, Rush Allen, whatever we're gonna call him. Rush was responsible for me being in a perpetual state of feeling quite crappy on Sunday. Thank you for that, Mr. Allen. I do appreciate that. And if you ever give me that much cracking again, we're probably going to have some words. Also joining us, of course, was Jeff Faviano. Jeff flew out here with his lovely girlfriend, Nicole. They joined me on Thursday night here in Boston, and then we drove out together on Friday. And we were down there for most of the weekend. It was a second time, I don't know, I guess the third time now that I've met Jeff in person. And for those of you that are fans of Mr. Faviano, I can tell you he's every bit in real life like he is in the videos. He is 100% the persona that he's laid himself out to be. It's kind of hilarious. Mr. Peter Wright was also there, Frugal himself. I've met Frugal now a few times, and his lovely wife. And it's always a pleasure to meet Pete. It's always a pleasure to listen to him speak. And always a pleasure to watch him handle the fans, if you will, and just sort of take it all in. I also want to give a shout out to Mr. Max Weldon. Max was responsible for getting John Fly and Josh up here, and while he's not active on Twitch or YouTube, he is a pretty cool dude, and you'll see him flying around Pilot Edge pretty much all the time. So I probably missed a few people, and if I did miss you, I'm sorry. Please do say something in the comments, you know? In addition to all the awesome YouTubers and streamers that we had out there, we also had just a ton of fans. Like, I was blown away by the number of people who came out to talk to me, and the other guys that were there too. I didn't bother to count. I should have, but I would say that somewhere between 25 and 30 people came up to me from all walks of life, all age groups. Like, it just, words cannot express how I felt coming out of that event. And it was just absolutely phenomenal, absolutely fantastic to see you guys and meet all you. So if you did happen to show up and you did come up and say hi to me, I am absolutely blown away, and I thank you all very, very much. So we had a couple of panels that I went to. I only went to panels on day one. The day 2 panels, while interesting, I wasn't feeling like I'd be able to sit through. Frugal gave the keynote speech for the event, and he had it was a very interesting speech. And I don't know if there's any videos floating around on the internet, but I would definitely try to go find that. He talked about the state of the sim nation and how the sim is definitely not dead. Some of the highlights from that, though, was showing some video of the Red Bull Air Race simulation that's going to be coming out soon. And that's being made by Slightly Mad Studios, the same company that put together Project Cars. Really, really, really cool trailer for that thing, and just an absolutely stunningly good-looking sim. Like, I was I was blown away by how pretty that thing was, and sort of knowing what the Project Cars engine is capable of. I'm excited to see what comes out of that. Additionally, you had Dovetail, who was there. I actually just got done watching most of the speech that was done, or most of the presentation that was done by the Dovetail creative director, and they were talking about their philosophy on the new flight sim. And Pete has some good words to say about him, and that they're going to really be targeting, the entry-level person, the person who is, maybe I should try that. Maybe I want to try this flight simulation thing, and maybe I want to see what's up, sort of the gateway drug into coming into our little hobby here. So I am actually really excited to see what Dovetail has for the rest of the year. While opinions may be where they are in flight school, they are going to put together a full simulator, and we'll see if it fits the bill for us. He talked about new sims. He talked about some old sims. There's some helicopter sims that are coming up. There's some, like I said, the Red Bull Air Races, and a few other things that are coming out. And then he also went pretty extensively into his recording setup. If you can find a copy of that video, that's the part I think a lot of people are going to find interesting. The tools and techniques and sort of the things he does when he's recording for one of his YouTube videos here. So it was a very, very interesting presentation. And Pete gets so nervous right before he goes to present, and he does just a fantastic job every time. So kudos to him for that. In addition to that, on the floor itself, you had the event was put on by Boston Virtual ATC, or Boston Virtual ARTCC, I believe it is. Boston Virtual. We're going to go with that. And it was put together by a gentleman, or it was led, I should say, by a gentleman named Evan. So Boston Virtual, during the event, actually has a huge number of controllers that are sitting on the floor. And if you had looked at the VATSIM map, you would have probably recognized that, man, there's a lot of controllers on here, Boston. So it's kind of cool. You can walk around the show floor. You can look at the controllers. You can kind of see what they do, talk to them, ask questions. And there were also a few guys that were doing some simulation flying on the network as well. So those demonstrations were kind of neat. I had hoped, seeing that last year, that perhaps we could do a live stream from there, but with the internet considerations of what they were, apparently not very good. We had to settle for not doing that and sort of having this little retrospect here at the very end. I had a chance to use Oculus for the very first time. The guys from Fly Inside, who have a team that are putting together Oculus support for FSX, were there, and they were showing off their products. And man, I'll tell you, it's my first time using VR altogether. First time using VR altogether, and I was pretty blown away by it. Like, I wasn't really sure what exactly to expect. And I kind of looked out, and then my brain sort of made that disconnect and said, you know what? I know what I'm looking at's not real. And for the most part, I was pretty okay. Didn't get dizzy, didn't get nauseous or anything like that. And had a really enjoyable flight. Actually, here in Boston, we flew out of Boston Logan. I flew up the coast, and I flew towards my my home airport where we just took off out of. And it was a cool experience. And I'll tell you that the one thing about VR, the one thing about Fly Inside that really struck me, and we were doing the flight of the default Baron for FSX, but the one thing that really struck me was just the sheer size and scale of everything. Like, you're in the cockpit right now. You're looking at, the panel in front of you. You're looking kind of off to your left, this wing here and this and that, and it all looks very tiny. When you immerse yourself in that VR experience, especially in that Baron, you look off to your left and you look at that engine. That engine's massive. Like, that thing is just freaking huge. And I just, that was, I think, the thing that got me more than anything else. Was the size of that engine and sort of just the scale of everything around you. Regrettably, as I got near the end of my flight, my brain was starting to lose that disconnect between, you know, what is reality and what is fake pixels, and I started getting a little dizzy and a little sick. So I kind of had to pull the headset off, get my balance there for a second, and then carry about my life from there. But I think Pete might have actually gotten some of that on video, so maybe we'll get to see that reaction. But it was a really cool thing, and the Fly Inside guys mentioned that they are looking to add some X-Plane, or add support for X-Plane. They're doing some really cool stuff in terms of how they're hooking directly into the graphics engine to do this. And man, I tell you, I've never seen FSX run as smooth as it was on that sim setup. I don't know if they had things cranked down or kind of what they were doing, but they were able to run the Oculus and pull a solid 75 to 80 frames per second. So it was a really cool experience. If you got FSX, if you got the Oculus, like, I would 100% say you should get Fly Inside. Kind of moving on from there, there was a gentleman, or a family, I should say, a very, very, very passionate family, who had a replica Cessna 172 cockpit, and they are meticulously working on recreating all of the instruments inside so that they work inside their sim. And man, let me tell you something, that thing was so cool. Unfortunately, when Jeff and I got over there to go try it, it was broken. Something had happened. It had decided it did not want to work anymore, and that was kind of that. So we didn't actually get a chance to fly it. We did spend some time sitting down in it. Jeff, I know, took a little bit of video that I'm sure will appear in his vlog that he's going to put together. But it was just that was a really neat thing. And that family, you know, we're talking to father, mother, son, daughter, and there are folks that are here in Massachusetts. But that family is doing something pretty cool, and they are all super, super, super passionate about it. That was called the My Cessna Sim Project. I'm definitely going to put some links down there because you guys got to see this thing. Incredible. I'm looking forward to next year hopefully being able to actually go fly it, because I think that'd just be the coolest thing ever. There were a number of fake plane vendors that were there, fake plane developers, both on the FSX and the X-Plane side of things. You had TFDI. TFDI is pretty notable because they did a live stream earlier this week, and Colin was the guy who was sort of doing all the talking. If you guys haven't seen the Cessna or the Boeing 717 live stream that they did, you should really check that thing out because they knocked it out of the park. That plane makes me wish that they were coming. Like, I want that thing in X-Plane. Colin, if you have a chance to see this, man, you got to bring that plane to us, because I'm not sure I can live without that one. But the plane looked beautiful. It's still got some rough edges. It's still got some stuff that they want to get done. But it did look like a very nice plane, and it ran very well. And their presentation of it, their sort of passion that they showed behind it was incredible. So I had a chance to speak with Colin a couple of times. I even actually got to watch Colin fly the IXEG 737. And it was very, very cool watching an FSX developer jump into that plane and just be like, holy crap, like this thing is something else. That was a neat experience too. But I had a chance to talk to him for a little bit, congratulate him, and sort of pick his brain on, you know, kind of what they're doing and what they're working on. And for you FSX or P3D guys, they're saying that this thing's going to be done by the end of the year, and they're going to have it on sale. So that's definitely something to look forward to. After TFDI, we had Quality Wings that was there. I didn't know Quality Wings was going to be there, but maybe that's my fault for not looking too closely at the guest list. But Quality Wings was there with their Cessna, a long way from being a Cessna, with their Boeing 787. Hotly anticipated plane that's coming up pretty soon. It looked like it was very near completion, although it did have a crash to desktop while we were there, and I think one of the developers was furiously taking pictures trying to figure out what the hell was going wrong. But it looked real good, sounded pretty good, and they seemed pretty passionate about the project. And I definitely, I know a lot of people in FSX are very, very excited about that plane, and rightfully so. Quality Wings has got a pretty good history of putting out some good products. And yeah, that's going to be a neat little plane coming up here very soon. Got 3-3 left here at Boston. This is, I think this is where they're taking off. No, they're landing 3-3 left tonight. At least they were earlier. And take a look at this nice little airport here, a little low approach. Mr. X, let me tell you, Mr. X knocked it out of the park on this scenery. This looks so very good. We'll put a link to that as well. Because if you have X-Plane, you should have this scenery. You have everything by Mr. X. So after Quality Wings, you had A2A. A2A actually announced their Constellation at the show today, or at the show this weekend. I didn't get a chance to fly it. I didn't really get a chance to put a whole lot of time into it, but it's worth mentioning because it's actually the second year in a row now that A2A has made a major product announcement. Last year they announced the Comanche, which ended up being a pretty popular plane amongst all you FSX and P3D folks. Another one that I've kind of, I wish that we could get those on the X-Plane side of things, but it's all right. It's good that more and more products are coming out, more and more high quality products, and I think there's been a lot of people that have been asking for a Constellation in one shape or another. So there's going to be a lot of buzz and a lot of excitement around that one, I think. So do definitely check that one out. I also had a chance. I was approached by a gentleman who introduced himself as Simeon, and Simeon happens to be Crosswind from Majestic. I had a nice little conversation with him, begging and pleading and saying, please, Mr. Crosswind, will you please bring your sim over to X-Plane? But I don't think we're going to have any such luck, at least for the time being. Simeon mentions that they're a small team and they don't have the resources right now. So it was great to talk to him, though. It was awesome. I tell you, I did not expect to have him come up and say hello to me at some point, just because I don't fly FSX. But it was cool to see him there, and it was nice to put a face to the name and the voice there. You had, in addition to FlyJ Sim, who I mentioned earlier, who wasn't there who wasn't there to present. He was there just kind of hanging out with us. But you had Cameron and Tom from IXEG, and Cameron and Tom were the bane of my existence on Saturday night, along with Mr. Rush, or should I say Mr. Aerosim Gaming. And we had a nice time staying up pretty late and shooting the breeze and sort of getting to know one another. And IXEG was there showing off their plane in a couple various forms. And Cameron was also working with some of the guys from GoFlight to show off a connector that he is building that allows their hardware, the GoFlight hardware, to be used in X-Plane. I didn't actually get a chance to fly that software, unfortunately, or to fly that hardware, and I was a little bit bummed by that. But it looked really cool, and it was working flawlessly with the 733. So very, very, very excited for something like that. So if we go back to some of the presentations, I think some of the meat and potatoes of what people are interested in. I went to the X-Plane presentation put on by Austin, Ben, and I can't remember the guy's name, but he's a nice, soft-spoken Southerner who talks about wet a lot, and Jeff was enamored with his accent. But they talked about X-Plane 10.5. They showed some previews of their new AutoGen system, and let me tell you, man, AutoGen looks real good. It looks real good. They talked about They talked about some of the ways that they're improving the behavior of the AutoGen system to take into account the height of buildings when they're producing what they've got. So we should see some more varied and some more realistic looking cities here in the near future, which is I think something a lot of us are very excited for, because it's nice to have these scenery packages, especially like what Mr. X and GBP 500 and Iced and some of those other guys do. But sometimes it's nice to fly into just some new cities, and it's a little bit of a bummer when you head into those cities and it's like, I know there's a big tall building right there, but I'm just not getting it here. So there's some definite improvements in AutoGen coming up. They're also going to be improving the ATC in the sim and the AI traffic. They were a little light on the details as to what exactly they're going to do with those, but did say that that's something that they are on they're working on and they're well aware of. So the beta goes live this week at some point, and we'll probably if they follow the normal release schedule, we'll probably see that stuff coming out the end of the summer at some point. I think the biggest announcement, sort of the biggest thing that happened, was the talk of X-Plane 11 and some of the features that are going to be coming with that. Let me tell you, that presentation I know is on the internet, and you should go find it and you should watch it if you're a fan of X-Plane. Even if you're not a fan of X-Plane, if you're just into simming, it was real good, and it showed some huge steps forward in the sim, in my mind, or my opinion. I think my favorite thing that they showed off, everybody's probably going to talk about the visuals and this and that, but you guys know I'm a big fan of sounds, and they showed off the new sound engine, and the stock Cessna looks, sounds, and it's on par. Well, I guess not looks, but as far as the sounds go, the sounds are definitely on par with what you've got coming out from Airfoil Labs. It was just incredible when they turned that up, even on the crappy sound system they had there at the expo. It was just incredible what they were doing, and it's supposed to be easier for developers. Like, they're using a industry standard or an industry standard way of putting these sounds together, and the goal was that they want this to be easier for the devs to do, and it's going to eliminate the need for custom 3D sound engines and some of the stuff like that. So that is extraordinarily exciting in my opinion, and I cannot wait for that to come. Most people have probably heard about the visual changes that are coming up. You've got physically based rendering, which is a fancy way of saying we know how to make light reflect off of stuff. Physically based rendering is... I had to do some research on this today and sort of figure out, like, why is this such a big deal? And it's used in a lot of game engines. The Frostbite engine uses it for Battlefield, and a number of other game engines are using it. And what it does is it tries to light things in a way that your eyes sees as being realistic. So it tries to do reflections. It tries to do like proper reflections. So if you're shining light into a piece of metal, it should behave differently than if you're shining light into a seat cushion. And physically based rendering, like they showed some of the before and after shots using X-Plane, and it's not going to come across in those videos, but the difference in detail was just staggering. And I'm hoping that Ben or one of the guys puts out a new video or some new information on the developer blog for that soon. In addition to that, they showed off better shadows. They're going to be basically, the shader system is going to be handling shadows in a more realistic manner. The example they showed on that was looking at a jetway. And the jetway, where you have some of the sort of raised and bumped out areas, you could see some nice, soft and light shadows around those corners and whatnot. And it's difficult to explain what that actually was, but I will say that it vastly improved the visual appearance of the sim, and it's definitely another one of those things that it's like, yeah, that's just going to add to kind of add to the awesomeness of the new sim when it does drop. They showed off the new UI. The new UI, everybody complains about X-Plane's UI, myself included. And the new UI is kind of something to behold. It's very pretty, and it's got lots of nice little animations, and it's very sort of modern and hipsterish, if you will. And it should be cool once they get that thing put together. And I think based on what they showed, it's going to make this sim quite a bit more accessible for the folks coming in. So it'll be a nice thing, and that comes across pretty well, I think, in the videos, if you get a chance to check on that. And then finally, they showed off. They talked a little bit about VR, I should say. Somebody asked them about VR, passing question towards the end of the show, and I think it was Austin that mentioned that they've baked in VR support to some of their internal builds, but because the APIs and whatnot keep changing, they just haven't had a chance to actually release it to the public. So. Based on what I've sort of heard through the grapevine and rumblings here and there, and just the fact that VR is becoming such a big thing, I anticipate that VR is going to be a fairly integral part of the X-Plane experience in the near future. So, but don't quote me on that. But with any luck. And so finally, what I wanted to talk about was I had some really interesting and some really kind of moving conversations this weekend, but I think my favorite was the one I had with the gentleman and his I believe it was a 14-year-old son. I can't remember the name, and I probably shouldn't say the name anyway, just for privacy and all that stuff. But we had a very, very, very long conversation during lunch on Sunday, and we were talking about YouTubing and kind of how how entertainment is changing, how things are sort of progressing, and I think it was enlightening for both this father and even for myself, just kind of realizing that entertainment is changing, things are changing, and no longer are is the younger generation watching TV. They're watching YouTube. Everybody knows YouTube and this and that, and I kind of relate that with an experience I had a couple of weeks ago, where I was around a number of young children up at up with some friends in Vermont, and what ended up happening is these kids found out that I make YouTube videos, and suddenly I am the hero. Like these guys, these are 7, 8, 9-year-old kids. And all they do is watch YouTube, and somebody who can put a video together is now sitting in their house. Like, this was just almost too much for them to handle. And we ended up, like I said, talking for about an hour, kind of covering the ins and the outs of, where video content is today and sort of where it's heading here in the near future. and where it's going to be heading in the long term. And it was just it was an enlightening conversation, and I hope if they are listening here that they understand like how awesome that talk was. I know that the father, I think, felt like he was consuming way too much of our time because we ended up talking so long. But I was with Mr. Fabiano, and him and I after we sort of walked away, were like, holy crap, dude! Like that was an incredible talk. So maybe it's one of those things that like, I think it'd be good for a panel talk or something along those lines. But it was a lot of fun, and it was probably my favorite conversation of the whole weekend. Like there were so many people that we met, so many people that that came up to me, and I again am just deeply blown away by the amount of support that I've gotten with this channel, and sort of with everything else over the last 6 to 8, 9, 2 years, whatever. Hopefully we'll continue on our trajectory. Hopefully we'll keep going, and hopefully next year we'll see a lot more of you guys up at Flight Sim Con. And with any luck, maybe we'll be at a new venue, and I can try to get a live stream going from there. But I appreciate you guys watching. Please do have a good evening, and it's been great sort of blabbing onto you guys. We'll get some more live streams going here pretty soon, more frequently as my life gets a little less busy. But once again, I do appreciate it, guys. Have a great night, and we'll see you.